November 4th is the big day in Wisconsin and around the country, and we thought we would talk about the issue of the election process, the possibility of voter fraud, and we thought the two people with us today would be excellent in terms of helping us address those issues. Seated next to me is Sue Edman. Sue Edman became the City of Milwaukee Election Commission Executive Director back in the summer of 2005. So this is her first presidential election. She is also a former captain in the Milwaukee Police Department. And seated next to Sue Edman is Bruce Landgraf. Bruce is an assistant DA with the Milwaukee County DA's office. He's also part of a task force that some of you may have heard about that will be looking into allegations of improprieties or voter fraud at the polls. So let's please give them a warm welcome to Marquette University Law School. You know, I should also mention that Bruce is a Marquette Law School graduate. And I wouldn't, you don't want to forget that kind of stuff. So, anyhow, I thought we'd begin by talking about what we can expect at the polls in the city of Milwaukee on November 4th. And I thought I'd ask Sue Edman that question. What should a voter reasonably expect at the polls that day?
Well, we're not sure what the turnout is going to be. It could be 300,000, 325, it could be 350,000 people voting on election day. You will find polling sites that are well staffed. We've added a lot of extra poll workers at every polling site in the city of Milwaukee. We've done an analysis of the previous activity as it relates to voter registration, just number of people that voted at those sites, and we based our staffing on those numbers. I'm afraid you're going to find long lines because people are going to be coming out to vote on election day. So a lot of people working the polling sites, but also long lines.
If we had 350,000 people turn out, what kind of, put some perspective on that for us. What would that be in a city like Milwaukee? We haven't seen that kind of turnout in years, have we?
In 2004, as I said, there were 275,000 people that voted. That was a record turnout then, so this is really off the charts.
350,000, and that's a possibility, you think?
Very much so, yes.
All right. Bruce Landgraf, your boss, District Attorney John Chisholm, said that people have a right to go to the polls on Election Day and not to have any disruptions. How does your office define a disruption?
Well, we are looking for a fair and honest and, very importantly, an orderly election. And we're hoping that people will bring to the polls a lot of patience. I think it is fair to say that there are going to be long lines, and I think it's fair to say that the amount of time the average voter is going to spend in a poll this election day may be the longest they've spent in a poll since 2004. We don't have any particular definition of disorderly, but we would hope that the electors are going to be patient and understand that it's going to take a while to be processed and just wait to have their vote cast.
So patience is what everybody will need on November 4th.
Well, I think so, and I agree with Sue. This has all the earmarks of being potentially a record election, and people have to understand that when they leave to go to the polls on November 4th.
What if you decide to register at the polls, Sue Edman, which is something that Wisconsin, of course, does allow? That's going to be a lengthy process, wouldn't it?
Yes. We have been encouraging people to register prior to Election Day, but there are always those who will wait and register on Election Day. If you have to register, or those who are registering on Election Day are going to wait even longer. But what we are doing for this election is we've created a position called a site coordinator. So as people come into the voting site, we're going to have people greeting them to find out if they're registered to vote. If they are registered to vote, we want to get them to the front of the line right away so they don't have to stand in a long line. If they have to register, we're going to have people assisting them. We're going to ask them if they have their proof of residence document. If they don't have it, they're going to have to go get it if they don't have a corroborating witness. And then people are going to be helping them complete the application and reviewing it. So by the time they step in front of the deputy registrar to get that final review, it's complete, it's accurate, it's legible. And hopefully things will move along much faster. That's our whole goal here, to have adequate staffing, extra staffing, to keep things flowing. The last thing we want is anyone to stand in line unnecessarily. If we can get them to the front of the line, that's where we want them to go.
One of the things that is happening this year, and I'm sure all of you have heard about it, is the emphasis on early voting. And I'd like to ask you a quick question about that, and then we'll talk about some of the activities that are being undertaken by your office to make sure that everything's on the up and up election day. But what kind of response have you had to this emphasis this year on early voting?
We have set up in-person absentee voting across from City Hall in the Zeidler building. If you recall, in 2004, if you were in the city of Milwaukee, we had lines and lines of people around the rotunda in City Hall, and people waited and waited for hours, and they came into our office, which is really a very narrow hallway leading to our front desk, and it just was very inefficient. So we've taken that operation, we've moved it across the street, and we have one area for express voting for people who are registered, and for others who are not registered, there's another area. It's been, we've seen, initially there were 100 people a day, and then it grew to 300, 400, 600 a day. Yesterday, 1,000 people came in through in-person absentee voting and voted. We're even seeing people come in from other municipalities around Milwaukee County, and they want to vote in the Zeidler building. But they can't. They have to vote in their municipality. So the turnout has been excellent, and people have been very complimentary. They're saying this is very efficient, they're very happy, so we're happy that they're happy.
Do you have a rough estimate on how many people have already done that, have taken advantage of the early voting option?
I would say that it's 6,500, maybe 7,000.
Already?
Yes.
Okay. Bruce Landgraf, tell us about your role on Election Day. A few weeks ago, it was announced by John Chisholm, the DA in Milwaukee County, and Attorney General J.B. Van Hollen, that there would be, I guess you can call it a non-partisan task force or a bipartisan task force, depending on your point of view, that would be looking into complaints by people who thought they saw something or witnessed something that just didn't seem right. What is your office going to be doing on Election Day?
Well, on this coming Election Day, our office is actually going to continue a practice that has been in effect since at least 2006. And the task force role, to the extent that it involves the Attorney General's office, is largely, the Attorney General's office role in this effort on this coming Election Day is largely to supplement an effort that started a number of years ago and to assist the District Attorney's office. I think it's probably important to note, because there's been some public discussion about this issue and we've received inquiries about this. John Chisholm, as the District Attorney of Milwaukee County, is the jurisdictional officer when it comes to this task force. He is the person who makes the decision regarding the course of the investigation. He is the person who makes the decision regarding the prosecution of individuals. In fact, 3 people have been filed against so far, have been the subject of criminal complaints, and Mr. Chisholm has approved all 3 of those matters. I want to take 2 steps back, if I can, to talk a little bit more about what we're going to do on Election Day. I said earlier that this will continue a model that started in 2006. Many of you remember the longtime predecessor District Attorney E. Michael McCann. He had a practice in presidential elections in years past, and indeed in any major election going back to, I believe, about 2000, of having an assistant district attorney serve as something of a poll watcher in the individual poll locations throughout the city of Milwaukee. Under Mr. Chisholm's administration, we are not continuing that practice. We are resuming, or shall I say, we are going to adopt what might be described as a more traditional role supporting law enforcement when it comes to matters that might arise on Election Day. So what we will have is